You ever have one of those moments where you realize the person trying to ruin your life just handed you the biggest gift you'll ever get? I'm talking about the kind of thank you that comes wrapped in a court order and tied with a bow of cosmic irony. That's my story. And if you stick around, you might just pick up a trick or two for dealing with HOA bullies, shady neighbors, or anyone who thinks a little power lets them trample on folks like us. My name's Garrett Whitman, and the only thing more stubborn than the land under my boots is the memory of my wife, Sarah. God rest her soul. She passed 3 years back, and I swear this old lakefront cabin is the only thing that kept me breathing after. We built it together, right down to the oak fence out by the water. Even when cancer had her so weak she could barely lift a teacup, she insisted on helping me hold every board straight. Said she wanted something permanent, so there'd always be a piece of us out here, even when she was gone. You know how it is when you build something with the person you love. It becomes sacred ground. Enter Delilah Thornfield. Now, you ever meet somebody and instantly get the sense you're standing in the way of their grand plans? That's Delilah. She bought the glass mansion across the street. A real showpiece, all chrome and cold smiles. And within 2 months, she got herself elected HOA president. Suddenly, we had rules about everything. No RVs, no tall flowers, Christmas lights down before the eggnog's even gone. She moved in like a storm and turned our quiet lakeside stretch into a gated community run by a parking meter with lipstick. But the real trouble started with a letter, official paper, dripping with fake niceness. Your fence violates new HOA height restrictions, Mr. Whitman. Lower it to 4 feet or pay $500 a week in fines. I called her up, hoping for reason. She gave me the kind of smile you use on telemarketers and said, "Old rules don't matter, sweetie. We're modernizing." I swear my blood pressure still spikes just thinking about it. Turns out, this wasn't about fences or flowers. One morning, sipping coffee on my deck, I catch her staring at my dock through binoculars. No shame, just full-on surveillance mode. I realized, right then, she wanted my lake access, not just a lower fence. Next thing I know, my whole property's been sprayed with orange paint. My fence, my rose bushes, even Sarah's memorial bench. A note taped to my door, surveying for compliance modifications. Work begins Monday. I just stood there, breathing in diesel fumes, watching years of memories get marked for demolition. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets good. I spent 30 years as a property surveyor. I know boundaries, physical, legal, moral. Delilah thought she could roll over a grieving widower. She didn't realize she'd just picked a fight with someone who measures everything down to the inch. Monday comes, and it's like a construction site exploded on my lawn. Chainsaws, sledgehammers, men tearing out the fence Sarah and I built. I watched, sick to my stomach, as the last piece of her handiwork turned to sawdust. But I noticed something strange. They weren't just tearing stuff down. They were building a stone pathway, decorative lights, fancy landscaping. I asked Delilah what she thought she was doing. She just flashed that lawyer smile and said, "Public lake access, sweetie. Community property for everyone." Yeah, everyone who lives in her mansion with the private boat dock at the end of this public path. She started waving legal terms around. Adverse possession, community easement. She thought if she built this walkway, the land would magically become hers. But here's what she didn't know. I'd been documenting my use of that land for 15 years. Gardening, repairs, everything. Adverse possession doesn't work if the owner's actively using the property. I called the city, no permits. By lunchtime, the inspector had shut her whole operation down. Stop work orders slapped on every piece of equipment. She looked at me like I'd run over her dog. "This isn't over," she hissed. And it wasn't. She called an emergency HOA meeting, tried to slap me with a $2,000 fine for obstructing community progress. But I came prepared. Played a recording of her threatening to use fake legal claims to steal my land. Turns out, Michigan is a one-party consent state. Even her own supporters started shifting in their seats. That's when the cracks started showing. I noticed the HOA was paying consultation fees to Thornfield Construction Management, a company Delilah herself had created weeks after she became president. Fraud, plain and simple. By now, the neighborhood handyman, Winston, and old Mrs. Patterson, our retired librarian, were on my side. People get tired of dictators, even if they come dressed in expensive suits. You'd think after getting called out for fraud, Delilah would back off. Nope. She upped the ante. Started telling neighbors I was unstable, passing out flyers about my mental health crisis. Even called Adult Protective Services on me, saying I was a danger to myself and others. Next morning, I find a for sale sign in my yard. She told a local realtor I was desperate to move and authorized the listing, without ever talking to me. But Delilah's biggest mistake was underestimating Sarah. Before she died, Sarah taught me forensic accounting. So while Delilah was slinging mud, I was following the money. I called in a property lawyer, a private investigator, and a local news reporter who loved busting crooked HOAs. By the time Delilah tried to frame me with fake texts and police complaints, I had a mountain of evidence, bank records, fake permits, fraudulent company filings, even satellite images showing the real property lines. Turns out, the walkway and all those fancy improvements, built entirely on my land. Land the county had taxed me for every year for decades. And under state law, anything you build on someone else's property becomes theirs, free and clear. Delilah spent $85,000 building me the nicest lakefront path in town. But the best part? Her own house was built 20 feet onto community property. She was so busy grabbing my land, she didn't realize she'd set herself up for demolition. When we brought it to the HOA meeting, news crew rolling, neighbors packed wall to wall, Detective Morrison and the FBI showed up with enough paperwork to sink a yacht. Turns out, Delilah wasn't even her real name. She'd pulled this same scam in 7 states. Real name, Donna Marie Thompson. White-collar criminal, FBI's most wanted, $2.3 million stolen in HOA scams. I stood there, holding surveyor maps older than half the neighborhood, watching her get handcuffed as the whole room cheered. She tried to play the victim till the very end, but nobody was buying it. Not after hearing the recordings, seeing the evidence, feeling the relief that the reign of terror was finally over. 6 months later, her mansion sold at auction. We used the money for scholarships, Sarah Whitman memorials, for students who want to fight fraud like she did. Mrs. Patterson's our new HOA president. She killed every dumb rule and threw a block party for the whole neighborhood. The lake's never been livelier. Kids skipping stones, folks laughing by the water, everyone free to live without fear of some petty tyrant counting their tulips or timing their Christmas lights. If there's one thing Sarah always said, criminals defeat themselves. You just have to keep your records, stand your ground, and let the truth do its work. That's how you win. Not with anger or revenge, but with the calm certainty that right still means something. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to drink your morning coffee on $85,000 worth of free stonework, knowing you turned a bully's best move into her downfall. So, let me ask you, ever dealt with an HOA nightmare? Got a story about neighbors crossing the line? Drop it below and let us know where you're watching from. Maybe your story's got a lesson in it, too. If nothing else, remember, never try to steal from a widower with a sharp memory, a surveyor's toolkit, and nothing left to lose. Sometimes, the universe serves up justice with a side of sweet, sweet irony.